Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Stormworks, and in this episode, we are once again working on our oil rig. So, pretty bare bones right now. We're just kind of getting started off, but I wanted to show you guys. I did a little bit of work off camera. I added this crane and cargo container system. This is actually not made by me. This is made by Jack. He's in the Discord. He's one of our mods, so he likes to do a lot of kind of automation stuff. So he kind of helped me out with this one. But I'm just gonna show you a little bit of the process before we get into the building. Later on, we're going to kind of work on the catwalk underneath the oil rig a little bit. But real quick, I just wanted to show you. So this is the crane, and this is essentially how it's going to work. You know, obviously there's quite a long ways to go to get this all automated and stuff, and a lot of things to add to the oil rig. But yeah, that's kind of the system we're working on. So I kind of dropped the rod there a little bit, so don't worry about that. We'll get that sorted out later on. But yeah, I just kind of thought you guys would like to see this and check it out. So this is basically just a cargo container that's filled with 32 different rods. You can unload and load it. One thing to note is this cargo container is not the same length as a standard cargo container. It is longer because the rods won't fit in a standard cargo container. But that is just something we got to kind of work through. I wanted this system to be reloadable, and that is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to do it. But enough of that. We're going to get into the building. I'm going to let the time lapse roll a little bit real quick. Before I do that, I'm just going to say a few things. If you guys like this series, you want to see more of it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. This is going to be a longer series for sure. So we're going to do a lot in this. There's going to be a lot of technical things, and in the later episodes, I'm going to talk a lot more about how all of these systems work, just because, you know, oil drilling in this game is pretty complex. But enough of that. One other thing I did want to say is I released a workshop project yesterday. So the PvP map that we've been working on, it's now on the workshop. So if you guys haven't seen that, go check it out. We are thinking about maybe doing a PvP tournament with people in our Discord with that. So if you guys are interested in that, also kind of check out our Discord. But again, I'm going to let the time lapse roll. We're going to get this catwalk started, and a lot is going to change in the coming episodes with this catwalk, but this is one of the cooler parts of an oil rig to me, is the kind of under section of it. So I want to get this in and kind of get an eye for where we're going to head with the build. All right, so I'm just kind of copy and pasting these corners around so we can kind of link it all up. But this is essentially what the catwalk's going to look like. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more detail to it, and we're going to have a lot more stuff going on underneath this. If you guys didn't know or you're new to the channel, usually I like to stay a little bit ahead on my builds. So in this one, I'll admit I'm pretty far ahead, but the absolute piping mess that's going to come with this thing is awesome, and I think you guys will definitely look forward to it. But yeah, so the catwalk essentially is going to let you get to a bunch of different points on the ship underneath it, and also kind of inspect the wellhead, go down to the water, that kind of thing. So I do plan on using physics flooders in the pontoons below, so they're not going to really be a space you can go into, and that makes getting into the ship a little bit trickier, especially because they have to go up and down. But we're going to solve that later on with a kind of winch system, and then also I'm going to add a crane and a crew change module, as well as there's going to be a helipad. So there will be a few different ways you guys can get in this, and also when you do first spawn it in at a workbench, typically you can just jump right onto it because it spawns super low. But yeah, this is the catwalk. We're going to have a bunch of different technical things down here, so you guys will be able to kind of check on some water levels. You will be able to get into the superstructure. The superstructure will go down a floor below the main deck, and you guys will get to see a little bit more of that in the coming episodes. Next episode, we're going to work on the superstructure a little bit just to kind of get it blocked out. But there is a ton of systems that we are going to have to squeeze onto this ship. So as usual, I'm going to do freshwater heated systems for the inside. I'm going to do air conditioning. We're going to have a slurry cleaner. We're going to have slurry tanks. We're going to have jet fuel tanks, diesel tanks, oil tanks, a refinery, all sorts of good stuff. So if you guys are kind of looking forward to learning about that, I'm going to try to explain a lot more in depth some of the technical aspects of this build in the coming episodes. I know these first couple episodes are kind of just getting a lot of blocks down and trying to kind of shape things out a lot. I don't want to start adding too much of the technical stuff until we get more of a floor plan, if that makes sense, on the main deck. So I want to get the superstructure in. I want to get a couple other structures in. We know for a fact where the cargo container for the drill rods has to go, and then that kind of gives me an idea where the crane has to go and a couple other things. But you guys will see a lot of that in coming episodes. Again, I'll try to go over a lot of it, but if you are new to the channel, I don't like to do a lot of fake buttons and fake pipes and that kind of thing. So the systems on this are going to be quite complex. Like I said, I'm going to add air conditioning, and I'm not going to use the cryo cooler, so I can go over how I do that. I actually think the cryo coolers are a little underpowered, in my opinion. They kind of don't work as well as I really think they should, but that's a whole different story. Right now we're working on this catwalk. I am just trying to kind of add some pipes to make it look like it's hanging from the deck, and then we're going to add a couple more platforms and stuff. And this catwalk, like I said earlier, will change quite a bit throughout the building process just because of layouts and that kind of thing. We're going to have a lot of the tanks on the deck sticking through the deck, and that's just to kind of give us a little bit of extra space. But another thing we need to worry about is routing all of the pipes. So I don't want to have layers and layers of pipes overhead where it kind of is in the way of your head while you walk around. So that is something that we're also going to have to worry about. And down here, we're going to stick all sorts of batteries. There's going to be a fire tank down here as well. But that is essentially basically what we're working towards. So right now, I'm just trying to get some blocks down. I'm trying to get this looking a little bit more like an oil rig. And I like the catwalks. I think the catwalk underneath is a really cool, fun part of the ship, and that is something that is pretty non-negotiable for me. This it's definitely going to help how the ship looks. And I know this looks a little strange right now, but it will start looking a lot more like an oil rig as we build. The kind of tricky thing about oil rigs is you don't really think about them, but they're very vertically built up. So if you ever look at photos of oil rigs, or if you ever seen them in real life, they have buildings on top of buildings on top of buildings on the top. And I can't really afford to do that because of weight reasons. So I'm trying to make this pretty compact, which is why we are, again, going to physics flood the lower level in the pontoons. I don't want to fill that with a bunch of weights and engines and that kind of thing. So we're going to put a diesel generator up on the top deck. And then that way I can just leave the pontoons completely empty, and it kind of saves a little bit of a headache for us. All right, so I skipped ahead a little bit. I did some work off camera too. So you guys can see we added a little bit more to the whole drilling apparatus, and we have a floating mast up there, which is later going to become a problem because of height. So we're going to have to figure out a way to make it fold, and that is just kind of what you get when you try to build things that fit in the workbench in Stormworks. So I'm not going to mod the workbench in this. This is going to fit in a default workbench. That's something I try to do a lot. I don't really like mission spawns personally. I think they're a little annoying, so it's just a challenge that I'm going to have to overcome. But what I've done here is I've essentially added the pump jack up top, and then I added another drill rod clamp. And this way we can lower the drill rods and kind of lower it down with the wellhead as well. So all of this is working manually, and I apologize about the buzzing. It's annoying. It'll get better when I automate things so things don't just stay on. But I wanted to show you guys lowering the wellhead with the rods. That's going to be the best way to kind of align the drill rods with the oil rig. So what you really want to do here is you want to get that orange part right in the middle of the drill rod connector. And I'll kind of show you guys a little bit more up close, but right there, that center section where there's kind of some rollers, you want to make sure that the drill rod sits right in there, and then you lower it down. So how I got around this in automating it, and you guys will see this later on, is I kind of make it jiggle up and down a little bit, and that ensures that they connect. And then that way we make sure that we don't have drill rods that kind of just fall through the bottom of the oil rig. They always stay connected. Now I am still working on pulling the drill rods out, but this is, again, going to be the best way to, in my mind, or at least what I found, to make sure the drill rods connect to themselves as well as they stay aligned in the wellhead. So I'm going to lower the wellhead with the drill rods. That way you don't have to kind of play with the oil rig's positioning and all of that to make sure it kind of sits evenly. This way it just guarantees that you're going to connect to the well and be able to drill without really having to mess around with it. The nice thing about that too is I'm not going to have to add too much stabilization systems to the ship. If you didn't know, they kind of act like a physics body, these drill rods, when they connect. So if you have a bunch of mag-alls on the bottom of the wellhead and they connect to the drill rods that are connected to a clamp on the oil rig, it's pretty much going to lock you in place. So it's going to take a lot of force to kind of rip them apart. And oops, probably should fill that hole in, but that's something I won't do until way later on because I don't know. Good question. But anyways, this is just me kind of showing you guys. You gotta play with these clamp connectors, and there's one on the bottom and one on the top. So I have two different inputs to kind of make them connect. Now you don't need to do that if your system aligns perfectly every time. In theory, when I automate it, it should align perfectly every time, but I still make it kind of do the jiggle just because I want to make sure that we don't have any issues. And then there's me connecting the wellhead. It's going crazy. It does that sometimes, but that is because I have too many mag-alls down there. So one of the trickier parts about doing something like this is the amount of moving parts. So we're just going to take it one step at a time. You guys can see we got the crane in, and that puts them into the drill rod clamps nicely. And next I'm working on the pump jack. So what happens when you get the wellhead onto the ground is you cannot force the drill rods down with the drill rod clamps. You have to use the pump jack, and you have to use some sort of motion. So whether that be like a linear track base or the large track bases, that's probably going to be your best option. So you need to use some sort of block like that to pull it down. It won't just go down with the clamp rods. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. I've just got some slurry pumping through the pump jack right now. There's no filters or anything. You can see the tanks in the background right now. All it's doing is just recycling slurry, and this is not going to work. So if you guys are following along, do not do that. You need to clean the slurry. It won't work indefinitely. As soon as all of that slurry gets dirty, you're going to not be able to drill anymore. What I was doing here was I just wanted to make sure that the pump jack and this system specifically could drill or drive the drill rods into the ground. So that's what we're doing. You guys can see the rotor table down below is spinning. And kind of a weird thing that I'm doing in this is you saw that upper clamp rod or drill rod is going to swing out of the way. And the reason I'm doing this is because again, the drills won't go down with just the force of the clamp rods. So you need to drill down to basically where the clamp connect is in the drill rod connector. And again, that's kind of that little square where we need to line up the orange ends. So that swings out of the way. It gives us another 3 blocks of motion. And something that I'll do later on too is I'm actually going to have the bottom 2 clamp rods move up and down 1 block. So when it's drilling, it'll move down 1 block and then move back up. And that way we don't really have to worry about clearing it or not. But again, what we're doing here is I just wanted to, as a proof of concept, make sure that this works. So we got it all the way seated down as far as it's going to go, and you guys can see it needs to go down like another block, which is why I'm going to have the lower clamp rod move up and down too. But it drops down, and we can move the pump jack back up, get it out of the way, and then we can go and click get rod again. So the crane will go and get us another rod and hopefully connect it. So this is going to be one of the trickier parts of the whole drilling system, is just making sure that the pump jack isn't in the way, as well as the crane knows how to connect it. So you guys can see it gives you a little bit of play. And so the drill rod has gone down a little bit, but I don't really want to depend on that because Stormworks is not consistent. So I'm going to swing this clamp back around, and it will hopefully connect to that upper clamp. If not, you know, sometimes I just kind of got to jump into it. But you can see that went too far. So now we got to pull it up. It'll make the weird connector noise. And so I'm going to pull that up, and then I'm going to pull the lower rod back up, and then we're going to shove them both down at the same time. And again, how I'm going to do this is kind of a jiggling motion. That's not supposed to happen, but it will occasionally. For the most part, I've kind of solved that issue, but you might hear it click a couple times. And that is just my way of ensuring that it's going to connect fine. So this is, again, not at all what the finished thing is going to look like. It's more of just a proof of concept, and I wanted to explain it a little bit more to you guys. But we're pretty much done building in this episode, so if you guys stayed to the end, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you guys like this series, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. There's going to be plenty more to come. I'm going to try to, as I said earlier, I'm going to try to explain this build a lot more than my previous builds, just because it's a very complicated technical one. But I'm not going to get too much into like the microcontrollers and that kind of stuff. If you guys want to check it out when it's done, feel free. I label everything pretty nice. I make the microcontrollers nice and organized, so they shouldn't be too hard to break down. But yeah, that is pretty much all we got for this one. So again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Come back for more, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.